All right, here we go. OverDrive off and running. TSN 1050 on the TSN app. Your home smart speaker up on TSN 4. Bryan Hayes, the O-Dog, Jeff O'Neill, Jamie Noodles McLennan.
What's up?
What's up? How we feeling?
Been better. Been better.
Oh, yeah. Uh-oh. That didn't sound good.
Did a deep dive into some Mike Johnson stats. My own stats at the gym.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, no.
And we got a long way ahead of us, fellas. But it started this week.
So the dipsy doos and the diddly dees are just not going so well at the gym right now? Is that what you're suggesting? Or
It's going great, but we got some, let's call them starting numbers.
Oh, so you have like this is a before and after situation. Can we get a before and after picture? Like, can we set that up, get a picture beforehand with the analytics? You know, because the bar has been set. I guess what you're saying is how long you can sprint, how long you can run, flexibility, what kind of weight you're
what
pushing.
Are we dealing? I was just going to say, what are we dealing with the
Yeah.
starting number? Like, are you talking like height and weight type of thing, or no?
Yes, that's all I'm talking about.
That number didn't. That number didn't come in the way you wanted it to, or what was it? American, or with the exchange rate a little higher? Canadian?
Yeah, can you give us a ballpark? Are we talking yen? Are we talking pesos? Like, what are we talking here? Give us a ballpark.
What do you mean a ballpark? I can't do it. I can't divulge that.
Just so we know where you're going, like, because we're on the journey with you here. We support. I got to start doing something. I got to be honest with you. I'm with you. I have to start getting more active. I've got to get moving. I'm worried about my own health, and maybe I'll join you. Maybe we can jump on the same journey together. Right? We're starting at a bit of a different point, but I'm not in great shape. I have no stamina.
I'll just do it at this. I'll do a before pick with my trainer. And then how about we do this? I'll leave it to you guys when you can sound a siren. We'll get JP to have a siren. And I don't want you to humor me. I don't want you to sign the siren next week because that's impossible.
No, it's going to be a couple
But when
months.
you think, when the show starts and you have a look at me and you say, it's working, you tell JP to sound the siren.
Okay, we'll have that.
Okay.
JP, make sure you have something. And make sure it sounds athletic and cool, right? We don't want like a clown car sound or something like that.
You don't want that.
No, we don't want the. We don't want that. We want something serious. We want something athletic.
Yeah.
We want something, like Enter Sandman or something like that. Like some sort of a bed too, right? We need a
like
musical bed and a
Ultimate
build-up.
Warrior coming running out of the
Exactly.
tunnel.
Maybe it's the Ultimate Warrior theme song, right? Something like that. And all right, because we're gonna have to let it sleep for a while. Because to your point, it takes time. It takes weeks to really get into it, to really commit. And
months, dude.
Months.
Like,
Months.
It might
Months.
take like
Months.
at least a month before either and it could be anybody. It could be Chris. It could be Doogie. It could be JP.
Okay.
One of you two. Maybe a listener writes in and says, "I'm seeing a different." The horn goes off.
All right. We will make sure that we keep tabs on that, okay? It's been established. The horn will be established. The musical bed, JP's already working on it right now.
But, dude, it took me back to my playing days. Like, Jason, the owner, he's like, "I want to speak to you in my office." I was like, oh
no.
It's like Peter Laviolette.
You got summoned to the office.
It felt like going to Lavi's office. And he's like, "Do me a favor and jump on that scale." Oh, no. As soon as he said that, dude, I thought about what I ate alone last weekend. Like, last weekend was my goodbye to that garbage.
See, that's always dangerous, man. I used to do that all the time.
Dude,
I
put on 15 pounds last weekend.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
I did a McDonald's on
weekend.
Friday, doubled up on a McDonald's on Saturday morning, 10 hard and a Diet Coke Saturday for lunch. It's disgusting. Apple fritters from San Remo's Bakery. Insane. And I just said goodbye to
That's
it.
it. That's a parting gift. Yeah, that's the way to do it. I mean, that is great. The last weekend of destruction. I remember that. I used to do the same thing. Problem is, it never really it didn't land for me. Yeah, it didn't take because you really got to commit. But it's good. It's good to hear the siren will be established. It's all good. All right, JP. It's kind of like a new goal song, right, with the Leafs. And I've noticed that online, no one knows what the new goal song is.
What is it?
I don't have a clue.
Heard it.
I don't have a clue.
I don't understand why people they're obsessed with they want it to be like this thing where, I don't know, they hated the other one so much. And I don't know, do you guys even think about it? I'm just like, what a goal or crappy goal. Or I don't care about it.
I will say this. Like, I would be, for example, say you're watching a Leaf game on the couch and you walk in to go to the bathroom or something like that, and you hear like you hear that, you're like, okay, they scored.
Right.
So like that's basically the Hall of Notes was the symbol of scored. Auston Matthews scored how many? He scored 5 goals in the last 2 games or whatever he has. I couldn't tell you what song was being played.
I don't know either. I'm assuming that that's something that they planned because it was getting annoying. Like I'm sure I can speak on behalf of the Leafs here. I'm sure they were like, this is so aggravating. We just picked a song. It's an upbeat song. Who cares? And people were complaining about it. And so they decided, fine, we'll change it up. And they changed it up. And then there was an issue with that one. And now maybe it's just screw it. You know what would be great? And this would be, yes, an organ. You know where I stand on that. That's exactly what should happen. Fire up the organ and that place will be rocking. But push the fans to create their own thing. How about after every goal, there's some sort of a chant or, have it come alive in a building. The issue with that, and understandably, is if you get
New York Yankees, Hazy, they start chanting before the game about certain players.
Yes.
Aaron Judge.
That'd be great. That'd be great. But
no kidding. I've been asking for it for 10 years.
If they're getting blown out, no one's going to do it. Like if you're getting smoked at home, you're down 7-1, you score a 7-2 goal, no one's going to chant. So you are risking that to an extent. But something I don't know what it is, and I guess that's probably the way it should be because who really cares in the end?
But every time I'd go into Chicago, I told you guys that Chelsea Pierce song or whatever, it's
which is great, admittedly, right? It's a cool song, and everyone knows what it means, and they won a ton of cups.
Yes,
and it was played all the time.
But you go to like Seattle, for example, has a song. It's Nirvana. I like it. And the crowd jumps into it. They do their own little chorus. It's really cool. If you go and listen to the Seattle Kraken's goal song, it's Nirvana, but then the crowd mixes in their own little like chant in the middle of it. It's impressive. That's Seattle Kraken.
Yes. But Seattle's got a great music scene, right? Like it had to be Nirvana that would do that. I don't know. Maybe that's what needs to happen. There needs to be like a Toronto...
I know Drake's from here, Bieber's from here, like like the good-looking kid. What's it? Shawn Mendes
is a GTA guy. Yeah.
What about just rock it old school and a Gordon Downey, just like a hip song that just starts kicking as soon as a goal is scored?
That'd be great for our generation. The problem is everyone overthinks it because they think of young people who, let's be honest, the Tragically Hip, like when they were really rocking, that was 30 years ago.
Yeah,
when they were at their height.
I agree with
30
whoever
years
just
ago.
said that. How are people hearing it through the TV? Because I
don't know what it is. I don't know what it is.
I have no
either.
idea. And you look at Twitter and it's like, can anyone tell me what the goal song was?
I know. And yet they've scored 1 million goals early in the season, and I expect more tonight. I think the total on FanDuel is 6.5. I expect that to go over. I expect goals tonight. Joseph Woll is going to get the start. We believe Korpisalo will get the start from Ottawa. Ottawa didn't go to the rink this morning, which I found interesting, that they just had, I guess, a meeting at the hotel. They did a little media availability.
I never liked that. I never liked that.
I don't either. That seems like you're running from something.
But exactly, it's it's obviously a big media. But it's just, as a player, you like to go down to the rink. You like to grab a coffee, tape your sticks, do something, go for a twirl. I don't know. I hated it because it's like you sit around all day.
Well, the only thing I could say for that is there's been so much lip service. They haven't played for like 3 or 4 days. They've probably been practicing and very frustrated, and all hell's breaking loose. You're right. I think it's like one less circus to deal with. And guys, we're worrying about 7:00 tomorrow night. We'll come to the rink, maybe or at the hotel, do a little video, do a pregame, and go back up to your rooms and be ready to rock. Like, I think Ottawa is going to be extremely serious and extremely focused. Doesn't mean they'll win, because honestly, the Leafs, they know that they'll be in one. This is a good rivalry again. I think it's going to be a good rivalry again. But I think it'll be a good game. I'm looking forward to it.
I think it'll be a great game. And that, I'm sure, is their approach, is we're all business. But, like, it says something about where they're at, that they're 10 games into their season and they're adjusting their game day routine. It seems, I'm not going to say desperate, but I think they are desperate. I guess I should say it's desperate. It's desperate.
Smells like something.
It smells like desperation. It smells like one last shot to try to change things around. And yes, I expect Ottawa to play well tonight, but the Leafs have not exactly been playing great either. And this is a real, I think, opportunity for Toronto to bury a team within their division early in the season. Like, keep them on the mat. If you're the Leafs here, you don't want Ottawa to come alive. You don't want the Senators to get off the mat, punch you in the face, walk out with 2 points in regulation tonight, and then maybe their season does get kickstarted. Then all of a sudden they are something you have to concern yourself with, because at this point, albeit it's still very early, the Leafs are 6 points up. You win in reg tonight, you got an 8-point buffer on a team that you haven't had to worry about in years. And that should be the motivation for the Leafs here, is that they haven't been playing great anyway. Yes, you came back and beat Tampa, but prior to that, you had lost a bunch of games. Defensively, you got to get better. And you're facing a team that's desperate tonight. Yeah, it's very desperate
way
tonight.
Better. It's like you said it at the top of the show. They're scoring enough goals to win hockey games. Like, defend better. Secondary scoring will round into form. Defend better, kill penalties better, and give your goaltender a chance. Who's playing? Woll tonight's
Joseph
obviously
Woll is playing, yes.
Yeah.
You think it's going to be Woll, Samsonov on the Saturday?
Well, Wall's getting 2 of the next 3, I would assume. I'd be shocked if he didn't, unless something crazy happens tonight, which could happen. He's a young guy. The goaltending has been around. Like, I'm seeing a lot of people, a lot of Leaf fans, like selling Ilya Samsonov down the river. I don't quite understand that. I know he's had a tough start. He has. Statistically, he's been pulled multiple times, but he had a really good year last year. Like really, really good year last year.
Pro sports. It's what have you done for me
lately? No, I understand that. But, like, Jack Campbell got waived, so what, Samsonov now needs to be waived? And what do you think the Leafs are going to do? Do you think Martin Jones is, like, going to come up here and win a Vezina? Like, I think Samsonov deserves the benefit of the doubt that he will buffer this out, right? Yeah. And then he'll figure it out. And I don't think the Leafs are thinking that way. Don't get me wrong. But I'm just a bit surprised by how many Leaf fans are jumping off his bandwagon. And it would be way worse if Woll had been terrible, right?
That's the difference.
But he hasn't been. He's been good, so that's a positive story. And ride that wave while you can.
Well, I said this yesterday. If Auston Matthews doesn't drag that team by the collar and get them back into it, we were having a goaltender controversy, bigger conversation yesterday.
If he hasn't been scoring
all
all year, we're having a coming to Jesus meeting on this show right now.
But we're not. But my point is Samsonov deserves the right and an opportunity to get back in the net. He's been fragile. He hasn't been great. He got 2 starts against Tampa. You get the gate. I think they pulled their goaltenders twice total last year on performance. I think there was injuries and stuff like that. But I think on performance, correct me if I'm wrong, it was maybe 2 or 3 times. Like, I thought it was twice.
Yeah.
They've done it twice in the first, 12 games? Mm-hmm. Ottawa's only played 10 games. They're 2 games under 500. They're 4-6. This is a team that's rested. I think they're pissed off. They need to get to the ice. Like, that's the one thing. All of this noise that's been going on, they haven't been able to play games to try and, quiet it or amplify everything that's going on. They just have to talk about it. So I look at Ottawa. They took the morning off, didn't show up. It's like, hey, show up and play because we need to get there. Yeah. And I think this goaltending situation with the Leafs, it's Joseph Woll opportunity. I would say it's probably Woll tonight, Calgary on Friday, although Calgary look pretty decent last night.
Yeah, they did last night. They got a win, and that was that they've won 2 in a row all of a sudden, and maybe Calgary's finding something, and they're going to hit the road, and they'll be here Friday night, and
and then Vancouver Saturday.
Yeah, so, it's going to be a fun few days. I mean, you got 3 games coming up, Canadian matchups. Like, this is a really cool portion of the schedule, and you got the Battle of Ontario tonight. Where I think Ottawa,
lead, though, boys. Buried the lead.
Why? What's the lead?
Huberdeau?
No, the Sharkies. They got something.
Oh, they did get a win last night. They did get a win last night.
2-1. Mackenzie Blackwood made 38 saves. Stood on his head last night. I had the TVs on. I had my corner, the horse eye on that game.
I wasn't watching. You couldn't pay me to watch Philly, San Jose.
I think it might have gotten up to 5 Gs to watch that one.
Yeah, honestly.
You want to watch Philly, San Jose?
Yeah.
5 Gs will do.
I had it in the corner. I was doing Sports Center, so I had to watch. I was watching, obviously, the Flames, and I watched Winnipeg. Those were my 2 assignments. But I had the horse eye in the corner. I had literally that game on over to my left going, I need to see what's going on there just in case. And San Jose hung in there.
That's a box score tracker. That's what that is. That's one you don't place eyes on it, but you look at the phone.
It's wake up and have a look.
Yeah, hey, look at that. They got to win. What do you know? That's
but Hayes, you were talking about the buffer with Samsonov, and I do agree with you where it's like, let this guy work out his game. But it's in the back of Leaf fans' head that he was like kind of picked up off the scrap heap from Washington where they kind of gave up on him, a first-round draft pick. But the question is how long does the buffer go? Like how long before it's like a problem turns in? And I want to take it to Calgary where Huberdeau was awful last year and he's been worse this year. And he sat on the bench for the third period last night and he's making 10.5. So what's the buffer there? Like, when is this like a catastrophic problem where you're like, what on earth are we going to do with this guy?
Let me jump in there. Hayes brought up a good point. If like Huberdeau's different because he's played, let's call it 90 games, give or take a few for the Calgary Flames. We haven't seen what he's capable of compared to what he set the standard the year before. Yeah. Samsonov played very well last year. So there is a standard that has been set in a Toronto Maple Leaf uniform by Ilya Samsonov, and he hasn't reached it yet. So that's the difference between the two, in my opinion.
Yeah, and the Leafs are above 500. Calgary was a mess to start the season. Samsonov's got a 1-year deal, then they can move on it. Like the Huberdeau situation, that's apples to oranges. Because like Huberdeau's, he's 10, 11, 12 games into an 8-year deal at 10.5. Like and he's getting benched, and that would have been an organizational conversation. Obviously, Huska makes the call, and he did so he deserved to be benched, clearly. As Huska said, he wasn't going. But the fact is, he hasn't gone once since he arrived.
That's right.
He's never been going. So I would assume that would have been Conroy and company going in saying, if you see it, it's time to jab him. You know, it's time. We got to try something here. So if it's not going, you got to sit him. And what they're trying to do is spark him via embarrassment. His teammates are sticking up. I feel for the guy.
No, I do too. But I heard something concerning last night when Ryan Huska was asked, how did he take it? And he said, he's fine. He'll have us. And then his teammates were like, he'll be at the rink with a smile on my face.
Yeah.
And I remember when my dad, I was playing junior, and he used to see some healthy scratches wandering around, smiling and laughing with popcorn and junk food. And he said, if I ever see you smiling and laughing, being a healthy scratched or not playing, I'll never come again. So it's like, how could you say, he's fine with it? Like he's going to be at the, like, shouldn't you would be thinking, I remember our boy Chaser came off the ice, Kelly Chase in Hartford, and Paul Maurice told him he was a healthy scratch. The big screen TV that we watched video on was in half in the front of the locker room. Because that's how mad and disappointed that he wasn't playing. And I'm not obviously recommending that, but just to say like, he's fine, he's okay, he understands. It's just like
I think that was media speak. If you're asking me, like those guys, all three of those guys who spoke.
But Noodles,
last night,
wouldn't you think the coach would say, you know what, he was pretty pissed off, instead of he's fine?
Yeah, I don't know. Why would that be media speak? Like, why would they all be on the same page saying, let's go out and talk about how happy he's going to be tomorrow?
I think it's more like you're sitting there going, well, if you say, he's pissed off and it's disruptive, now all of a sudden you're like, okay, this guy's a cancer in the room, all of that. You know what? But
I thought it would have crept to really disappointed.
Disruptive is your own word. I'm not saying they should have added disruptive, but I think I'm with O on this. Like, hey, I'm sure he's not happy. That sucks. But I'll bet you he comes out pissed tomorrow and crushes.
Even if the coach said, like I would sure hope that he's not happy.
Yeah.
Because to say that he's going to come to the rink with a smile on his face.
You're right. I didn't look at it that way. I just looked at it as like, this is the first time. And good for Ryan Huska. Like, this is the one thing, and I got this from you, O, is these coaches have nothing to take away from the player. Not taking money away from the players.
Nothing.
They've got stardom. They've got all these things. He's got one card to play, ice time. And he took it.
It's
and good for him because there's other coaches that should have done that. And think about this. If Daryl Sutter did that, could you imagine big bad Daryl Sutter? If he did that, there'd be tweets, the agent would be going nuts, like all of this stuff. Well, the player has to accept responsibility. That's the way I look at it. And Ryan Huska, what he did is he sent a message to the player. That's not good enough. I'm trying to win games here. And it was a big move. They were down 2-1.
Yeah.
And he sat him down. And they ended up winning the game.
It is. I would like to know why last night was the night. Like, again, that's where I'm getting in. I'm curious about the politics behind the scenes. Like you guys know the way it works in pro sports now. Like coaches, the management's heavily involved. I'm not saying they called down and said, sit him. That was Huska's call, clearly. But it can get political behind the scenes. Actually, there's an interesting quote coming out of New York. I saw Robert Saleh was doing an interview with, I think, Michael Kay's show. And he was asked specifically about why they keep playing Zach Wilson. Like, why are you playing him? Because they have a veteran behind him. And he basically said, I have to plead the fifth. I don't know. I can't get into it. Which was basically his way of saying the GM and the owner won't let me not play him. That's basically it. Like, the owner has said, no, he went second overall. We're paying him. You're playing him. And Saleh's like, I don't want to lie about it. I'm not going to say it's my decision because I don't want to own it. But that's modern sports. Is management has a huge role in this, and I find that somewhat fascinating. That clearly the Flames, because we saw it basically every game last year. Like, he had some good games, but Huberdeau has been really a disappointment since he got there, and he struggled mightily already this season. What was it about last night where it was like, that's when we're going to sit the guy?
He had to go up the chain and say,
I think so.
I can't watch this anymore. And if he does it again, I want to sit his ass on the bench. And finally, somebody went to him and said, you got to do it.
You have to do it.
I think either that or like his last shift was 2 minutes and 45 seconds long. So I don't know if it was like he got caught out there. I didn't go back and look at it.
I hope so.
That's fine.
If not, that's a Phil Esposito shit.
It's basically you come and nail yourself to the bench here because that's not going on. I don't know the context of it, but I just, in watching these games, I had back-to-back games, so I'm like, okay, he's benched. Let's go back and look at that last shift. It was 2:40. I'm like, oh my God, did he get trapped out and hung out in the zone? Like that's.
I would have been happy if I was the coach and he took a long shift. Maybe he wanted to stay out there and do something. I'm not benching a guy for taking a long shift, but I'm benching a guy for absolutely showing little heart rate.
Yeah, not playing well.
No, it's not even close. It's not even close.
No,
and that's what I wonder, guys. Like, we're at about 90 games of it with him in Calgary. Where's the breaking point where it's like, this is just no way?
But what are they going to do?
Yeah, what do you do?
Edmonton just hit the breaking point with Jack Campbell, right? Like, clearly that was a massive mistake. Ken Holland's got to own that. He gave him 5 years at $5 million. We're a year and 11 games in. A year and 11, and he's gone. He's on waivers. He's in the American Hockey League. I don't know what they end up doing with him. I don't know if they're going to eventually call him back up and hope he refines form, or at the end of the year, they're just going to buy him out. But what are you going to do with Jonathan Huberdeau? Other than buy him out. But you can't buy him out. You've been paying for it for years.
It's a 17 trade where all of them chomp on some of his salary, and he goes back to Florida as a $5 million player. That's the only thing I could think of.
If I'm them, I mean, you sit him out, and then he starts Friday night against the Leafs. Like you need this guy. Like
he's got to play.
You got to get him back. Like that's the thing. You send a message, and the last thing you do, if you're a coach, is you're still developing a relationship. Keep in mind, they've only been under the same house, we'll call it. Like Huska was the assistant coach there. They have a relationship. But he's been the head coach for 12 games. Mm-hmm. Like this was a final straw.
That's like moving in with someone, Noodles, and you realize after an hour they're a psychopath and you want to leave. Like, that's how that in-house relationship.
You got to make it work.
The next game will say a lot about Huberdeau. It'll say a lot. Like you've been embarrassed now. You got benched. Your team came back to win the game. Like that's another thing on top. Like, right? Like the athlete in you is like, all right, if you're going to bench me, I hope this goes south. Because then it's like, at least I can say, I wasn't what triggered the turnaround.
And you can look at the coach and say, good move, dum-dum.
Yeah, exactly. But now you got to be like, hey, that was actually a pretty good play not putting me on the ice because they came back and won. So, he's not going anywhere. It's got to work. He's still got talent. He's still a good player. But it has been a disaster since he arrived in Calgary. Based on expectations, it's been a disaster. Leafs Ottawa tonight. Our buddy Marc Methot will join us. Marc coming up, his take on the game tonight, the Battle of Ontario, where it currently stands. We've got a big one in the NFL tomorrow. We'll start looking ahead to that. Lots of rumors out there about Bill Belichick, too, and his security and his status. And the Raptors are back in action tonight, taking on Kyrie, Luka, and the Mavs. We'll start teeing that up as well. Jerry's percentages in about an hour. Overdrive continues, TSN 1050 and on TSN 4. Overdrive continues, brought to you by FanDuel, bringing you everything from the opening line to the final score. We'll get to our best bets later in the afternoon. Raptors, Mavs tonight. Luka is torching the NBA early in the season. Mavs are 6-1. They're off to a good start. Won't be easy tonight for the Raptors. But Raps have had a few days off since that big win in San Antonio. And
well, you're pretty pumped about your boy, Scotty Barnes. Are you confident in saying the player that Luka's at, who's been a stud for about 4 or 5 years, Scotty versus Luka?
I would put my money on Luka tonight. I mean,
but is he at the point where you're like, there is like, if you were going to promo, if you were behind the scenes promoting the game, would you be comfortable in saying that's the head-to-head matchup?
Absolutely. If I'm promoting on TSN, ESPN, TNT, it is Luka versus Scotty Barnes.
Yeah, it's not
absolutely
Siakam.
Not Siakam the way he's playing right now. No, exactly. And like Scotty won Rookie of the Year. He's a well-known kid. You know, he plays with energy. Siakam's still a very good player. He's just off to a bad start. But, yes, it's Barnes versus Luka, and Kyrie Irving's been off to a good start. Kyrie, that leadership, man, it's going a long way early, right? Kyrie is he wants to be a leader down there, and they're winning ball games. So
they say Marc Methot was one of the greatest leaders to ever play D in the big leagues.
Is that right? Okay, well, perfect segue. Here he is, our TSN hockey analyst, Marc Methot. Do you want to confirm that, Meth, that you were Mr. Leadership?
Yeah, but you can just hear the sarcasm. So, I mean, at what point do I just, just ignore the question? I don't know. Thanks, O-Dog. I appreciate it.
Matt, you know why I like you, bud? I gotta say something. When I first started out in the media, I went to Ottawa for a game, and you had the decency to say hi to me, and yet everyone else was like, look at that loser. And you just said, hey, O-Dog, what's going on? When you were going out on the ice. So I do remember that, and I appreciate that.
I got you, brother. Thank you for calling that out. Thank you.
There you go. Who was calling you a loser? Like
just the other guys were
Eric
like...
Carlson looked him straight in the eye.
You're
like,
such a loser.
Pigeon.
Matt was at least like, hey, O-Dog, how's it going? Like, he just... Not that I expected it or needed it.
What, were you down there getting handshakes on the way to the ice? Like, where were you?
It's nice to get acknowledged. I get it. If you're just standing there and you're a former player and everyone's giving you a cold shoulder, it does make you feel like a total pigeon. I get that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was just like a head nod and what's going on. That's it. That's all it was.
All right.
That's it.
All right. I like it. All right. So you were quote tweeting our plug that you were coming on, saying you might drop an F-bomb, and we're trying to figure out, is that like the F-bomb? Is it fired? Is that what you're predicting after tonight? Like, what F-bomb are we possibly talking about here?
I was talking about a good, healthy F-bomb with the regular one, but then I realized I don't want to get fired, so I'm just going to keep it pretty cool.
Okay.
And you mentioned the fired comment. Like, that's another area. I don't know how you guys feel about this stuff, but just for me, like, to go on and speculate whether a coach is going to get fired or not makes me so uncomfortable. I hate doing it. So, I know he's on the block right now, and it's tough because the team loves the guy. That's the hardest part, is that he hasn't lost the room. It's nothing like that here. And I've had a lot of interactions with DJ Smith as well, and he's a great guy. And I know people here will say, well, we don't need a great guy right now. We need a man that'll hold everybody accountable. And I mean, I'm not in the locker room, but every time I hear guys like Claude Giroux and Brady Tkachuk get in front of the mic and have his back, it makes me sort of rethink what my position is.
Meth, there's a lot to unpack here. There's a lot that's happened in Ottawa, and there was big expectations, and it was like they got a goaltender. The younger guys are a year older and better, and they're star players. What is going on here? Is it the same old stupid mistakes and goofy stuff? Why aren't they winning games? I guess the question is, why are we even at this point where we're talking about DJ Smith on the hot seat?
I know, and we're 10 games in, and this is the kicker. I mean, Ottawa's always, historically speaking, in the last couple of years, they struggle early on, right? Like, that was the saying here last year, that their November was brutal as well, but the start of their year was just terrible, and then they were just pretty well chasing it the whole way through. And then the summer comes around and they make some good adjustments. Mid-season last year, they bring in Chychrun. He's finally healthy now. They bring in Korpisalo. Now we have a pretty good tandem between him and Forsberg. And everything just kind of came together. And you mentioned there, like some of the players, just more maturity, another year under their belt. That's huge too. That doesn't get talked about enough. But then, the season starts. And for me, just watching it on the surface, I think it's a bit of an accountability thing with playing in your own end. And I'm not talking about the decor anymore. I'm watching some of the forwards, and it was another player that brought it up to me, and I started paying more attention to it. And it just seems like a lot of the guys, they're like the tracking back into the zone, they're a little disjointed. And I'd like to think that it's not from a lack of effort. And I hate saying that maybe it's cheating a little bit, but I'm seeing this coming from some of the top guys. And to me, that's the problem. I mean, if you're a first-year, second-year guy on the bench, and some of the guys in your leadership group aren't coming back all the way, they're not helping out as much in the D zone, they're conserving energy to go back the other way. I mean, that's a problem.
Yeah,
and
that's doing it or not doing it, Meth. That's not a technical thing. It's not X's and O's. You're doing it. It's one of those. It's non-negotiable. You're doing it or not. And some guys must not be doing it.
And the other night, I mean, I'm watching the game, and they played against L.A., and you've got an old Kopitar, and he's doing it. He's going back and forth, and he's coming back into the zone and helping out as best he can. And so I can't help but think, like, there might be a bit of an issue there. And you can only blame your goaltender so much, and you can't blame the back end anymore. And yes, they've had some injuries, but Boston's got some injuries. Other teams are dealing with it around the league too. So I think people here in Ottawa are just sick of excuses. And even if you are missing two of your top three centers like they did at the start of the year, I think we're at a point now here with the fan base, they just don't care anymore. They just want to see results.
Well, that's where I was going to go here, Meth, is the antagonizing of the fan base, not only with the record and the play, but now they're barking back like Tkachuk and Giroux. And, man, that's a dangerous game. That is a really dangerous game. And, I mean, you've been in that room. You've worn the jersey. You've lived there. You know what it's all about. Like, what do you make of the players' approach here and where the fans are going to take this?
Well, Hazy, we know that it's the fan base here is emotional, obviously, with the way things have gone the last couple of years. So it's understandable that no matter what you're going to say, if you involve the fans in any negative way, shape, or form, there's going to be blowback. So, the other night, I guess I shouldn't say it was DJ, the entire group got booed off the ice after the game. That doesn't happen very often in Ottawa, right? So that in itself is a pretty big deal. And then Brady has his off-the-cuff comments after the game, and he says that he doesn't really agree with it. And then Giroux the next day kind of doubles down on that. If it was me, I wouldn't do it, right? Like I had a little quote tweet the other day where I mentioned, just be positive and generic. Just say that you're going to work really hard to turn this thing around, the classic cliches, and just move on from it. The moment you challenge fans, you've already lost, right? These are people that are paying a lot of money to go watch you play. And I know I don't need to educate Brady Tkachuk or Claude Giroux on it. I have nothing but respect for those two. They're good leaders. I think it's just we're at a point now where the fans are that desperate. And so the moment those words came out, the backlash was pretty strong. And I don't think I've ever seen, since Brady's been here, no one has spoken negatively about him until the other day where you started seeing all the tweets and disgruntled fans. So there was a little bit of damage control after the fact, but I think now it's now you've put a target on your back as a player when you do that, and you better perform, and that makes tonight's game that much more important for the team.
Matt, I was thinking about it because you're around that team. I'm around the team a lot.
Yeah.
The one thing that Brady does bring is authenticity. We die for that in the media all the time. Hayes, you say it all the time.
Yeah, he's a big personality.
He's a big personality. And when I saw the comments and read about him and that, I wasn't surprised. Because Brady, he's a no nonsense, no BS. You're right. He could have come out and had the corporate line, the lip service. We were just talking before you came on, Matt, about 3 players from the Calgary Flames, talking about Huberdeau show up with a smile on his face tomorrow, the next day. And maybe they were it was their messaging. Hey, we're fine here. Where Brady's like, this isn't fine. I'm pissed off. So I wasn't surprised by it. I wouldn't suggest it, and me, knowing what I was as a player and all of that, I wouldn't do it. But I think Brady's the type of strong personality. When people take a step back, he's at least authentic. He's pissed off. He's trying to protect his team. He's trying to protect his coach. Now you're right. Like there's the lip service is over. They haven't played enough games. They've been sitting there for 3 or 4 days marinating in this. They've got to go play. That's the difference.
Yeah, and are you, like, is anybody surprised? Like, I'm agreeing with you, Noodles. Like, I love the personality. I've always been all about that. Like, as far as players just opening up and even sometimes saying outlandish stuff, I think it's great. It's entertaining, and we get to dissect it. It's fun. But I mean, like you, I wasn't surprised either. I mean, his dad, if anybody is even remotely familiar of his old man, like his dad never lacked confidence when he played. And Matthew Tkachuk is his brother. We all know what kind of personality he is. So, I mean, nobody's shocked, and there's nothing but love for the player in the city. That's not breaking news by any means. But I think, like you said, the way you finish that point off, it's like, okay, you know, you've talked the talk, you've defended your head coach off the ice. Now it's time to bring it. And it just so happens that you've got a pretty brutal back-to-back at home. And, you know, Toronto tonight, Vancouver tomorrow. You got Sweden trip looming around the corner as well. I mean, and then there still are some injuries around the group. So it's not a great position to be. They've had a sweetheart schedule to start the season. I mean, they've only played 10 games. It's got to be, I'm assuming, the least amount of games played in the league. I haven't checked the numbers yet, but I mean, it was there for them to capitalize on it. So where they go from here, I have no idea. I'm doing the game tomorrow night. I'm not really sure how I'm going to approach it yet, whether it's going to be scorched earth, depending on how tonight goes, or am I positive? So, you know, I'm trying to be balanced about it, but people here are frustrated. They had a huge summer, and it's been a very disappointing start.
Yeah, Ottawa with the least amount of games played in the league at 10. We're chatting with Marc Methot, Battle of Ontario tonight, Leafs Ottawa.
Meth, how do you draw a connection? You talked about the backtracking and defensive play and the new goaltender, and you talk about a fan base that might be a little bit uneasy after the Matt Murray experience, and then they sign another guy. It's not funny. I mean, you bring in another guy and you want to save, so it's like, does this guy need a different goalie glove, or does he need more back pressure, or what's his deal?
Well, that feels like a question for Noodles, but I do agree. Like that's been an issue, I think, for a lot of teams as far as just getting those timely saves. I mean, in Ottawa particularly, I mean, Forsberg was really good at times, then struggled. And with Korpisalo, he's supposed to be your number one guy. He's making big money. They gave him a great deal. But then I look back at the numbers, and I'm like, well, what has he won? Has he won much? Like, you know, so with Korpisalo, I know he wasn't really healthy, and then he got healthy over the summer, over last year. Now we're supposed to have a healthy version of him. But I think it's bigger than just blaming your goalie, because there's no coincidence that all these goalies coming through in the last couple of years are struggling, and then they leave, and they seem to, other than Murray, of course, they seem to find a little bit of success. So I think it's a structural issue. I was in denial about it last year when fans were tweeting at me that it's the coaching and it's the structure, and I would always tell them, I'm like, you know, it's a bit of a personnel issue. They didn't have the decor. But now, the way I'm watching, and I encourage people to watch tonight if they're listening in, you know, the backtracking from a lot of the Sens forwards. Some of them do it, but I'm talking about the top guys, your top two lines. The effort's not quite there. And if you're going to win games in today's NHL, where pretty well everybody can score goals, you have to learn to play properly in your own zone. So the cheating, I hate saying it, but I have been seeing it, and it's got to stop.
So, Battle of Ontario tonight. Meth will give you a chance to either gain points in Toronto, lose points in Ottawa, or conversely, gain points in Ottawa, lose points in Toronto. If you had the sole vote for the Hart Trophy winner tonight through a month, you're the only guy that can vote on it. Through a month, where would Auston Matthews be on your ballot?
Why do you guys do this to me? I love him as a player. I think he's a great player. Where do I have him on my ballot? I don't know. He's in the conversation. Right now. I don't know where you guys have him at. I think he's in the conversation. I think his defensive play is underrated at times.
Yeah.
He's got such
also,
a great
let's let's see where he ranks in goals scored.
13. He's lapping the field right now.
Yeah.
Now Kucherov's cooking.
First in the league, Mark. First in the league.
You know he's going to heat up, though. That's the thing. And it's like, I'm never really concerned with Toronto. And I know I make some bold tweets. Half the time I'm just fishing and getting reactions from people. But, you know, I think for me, the bigger question for me right now, I was huge on some of the sandpaper they brought in this summer. I was a big advocate of that. I am looking very stupid right now because I know Reeves, I'm sure you guys have spoken about this ad nauseum already, but I was big on him. I was big on Bertuzzi. I was big on Domi, bringing in some personality and some sandpaper. And now, I'm not so sure anymore. I think my stance on the tough guy in the NHL is completely pivoted. I think now, your typical, prototypical tough guy is a Tanner Jeannot. A player like that can get around the ice well, can still provide a little bit of offense, and can defend himself. I don't know what you guys feel on the Reeves thing.
Too, that Delorier guy's good.
Yeah.
He might be the best in the league.
But he's a heavy, though. He's a heavyweight.
So why? Even better. Even better.
Jeannot can throw with anyone, too.
Yeah.
Jeannot is tough, man.
Yeah. Well, anyway, so the response tonight, when I look at Reeves, that's another little storyline. He's been taking a little bit of heat the last week.
Mm-hmm.
So how does he respond? You know what I mean? So there's a lot of fun stuff to look out for in tonight's game.
Yeah, it's going to be a blast. Well, enjoy it, Mark. As always, pal. We'll catch you tomorrow on TSN. I think Noodles, are you flying out? I think you're calling that game tomorrow, Noodles.
Tomorrow,
so,
yep. Yeah, I'll be
there you go. It'll be Ottawa,
Yep.
Vancouver. There's a lot of Canadian content cooking this time of year. So it'll be a fun one. We always appreciate you doing this. Thank you.
Thanks for having me, boys.
You got it. Marc Methot, our TSN hockey analyst out of Ottawa.
And I just learned, I remembered a nugget that we got emailed yesterday. There will be a panel, and I believe Marc Methot is on the panel.
Yeah.
With one Jeff O'Neill.
Oh, is that right?
December.
Yeah. I have to go on a road trip with Darren Dreger to Ottawa, and I'm doing a panel with Marc Methot.
Nice.
Yeah, it's December 7th, so that's
awesome.
It's Ottawa Leafs in Ottawa, but it's our property. So it's a dual, I think it's MJ and Gord and myself, I think, and John Abbott, and then
what they call in the business a double whammy.
A double whammy. All right.
But with a super panel. That's what it is. Duthie and Drager and O'Dog and
Cheryl
then Meth
and
there.
Meth.
Cheryl, yeah,
Yes.
it's
awesome.
It'll be a fun one.
Have you been in that building since Matthews scored 4?
Oh,
I have. Yeah, I have had to commute a couple times. Certain playoff scenarios, different.
Very nice.
Different obligations, work-wise, we'll call it.
for your research.
I like it.
JP,
right.
have you got the what is it? The horn figured out or the?
No, not yet.
alarm?
I mean, JP's he's working right now, but that because you got to put a lot of time in that. It's been. You think you've lost weight in 30 minutes? We can't play it yet.
Listen, jerk. I didn't want it 30 minutes into the show.
Okay.
Ding, ding, ding,
I'm
ding.
just
It's
like,
oh my God.
Man, you look great. You look great.
What have you been doing?
Yeah, you and Meth. What happened there? When
No,
we were
I
interviewing
just
Mark?
wanted to know if he came up with any ideas where it's like sign the alarm and he's got the idea for what's coming.
Well, maybe we can ask for some interaction on that. Maybe we ask people to tweet in at OverDrive 1050 if they have any suggestions for a sound effect that could work as an alarm for the, hey, O's looking good and he's putting in work and let's get an update on where we stand. I think we need a musical bed. There's a lot of different production that can go into this. But if anyone has a suggestion.
One of the Rocky training songs,
Rocky was what I was thinking as well.
Burning Heart Survivor, my
That'd
buddy
be a good
Blades just texted in.
Yeah.
Any kind of Rocky type thing.
Okay. Yeah, Rocky would be good.
Rocky
Eye of the
training
Tiger.
in Russia.
The Eye of the Tiger would be
Eye of the
great.
Tiger.
Yeah, with a siren to start and the Eye of the Tiger. That'd be awesome. There's a lot of potential here. Okay, so we got Jerry's percentages coming up in about 45 minutes. Darren Dreger still to come later this afternoon as well. Raptors in action, Leafs in action tonight. OverDrive continues, TSN 1050 and on the TSN app. All right, Kevin Harlan will join us in about 15 minutes. Kevin, of course, one of the best in the business when it comes to calling.
Beauty.
He's such a great guy. Great calls, NFL, NBA. He does it all. So we'll catch up with him. And you guys see, this is, I think, the power of Taylor Swift again. That Jason Kelce has been nominated as People Magazine's sexiest man alive. You see that, Jason?
Is that where he
Kelce?
tweeted
What about the guy that won?
Out, right?
Yeah,
The guy that won was the nerd on the tractor back in the 80s. He already won that. Why is he the winner again?
Who? The nerd on the
Who's the
tractor?
nerd on the
What are you
tractor?
talking about?
Dempsey, who was the winner of the sexiest man alive.
Oh, did he? Oh, I didn't see that. I thought
And
that was still
Kelce
going
was
on.
one of the guys that was in the mix, which is
okay.
like a throw-in. But that Dempsey guy wanted to. I'm like,
The guy from Grey's Anatomy. Yeah, I
Yes.
know. Okay, I know who he is. Yeah,
but
what's
it's
that all
usually
about? You can't have him.
Brad-
2023.
Come on.
He's the sexiest man alive.
Outrageous.
It's Travis or the brother.
Yeah. I love that a center is getting some love with People Magazine, right? Like this guy, he's got the beard. He's a grit grinder. He's got to be 280, if not 3 bills. He just grinds.
Didn't he tweet out, beauty is in the eye of the beholder?
Yes. Sexiest man alive, Jason Kelce.
It's so funny.
I love it.
Well, I mean,
Yeah,
listen,
you're going to poke fun at guys that weigh that much?
No, I'm saying there's a chance. You grow a beard, dude. People Magazine might call you up. Anything's possible. And, if your brother Ryan starts dating Taylor Swift, that would probably help your profile as well.
Yeah, not going to be happening anytime soon.
I don't think so.
But you think that's a connection between Taylor Swift?
Of course.
No.
Of course. Dude, you think People Magazine had any idea who Jason Kelce was before Taylor Swift started dating Travis Kelce?
And their podcast
so what do you think?
up.
She sent an email to someone behind the scenes?
No, what I'm saying is everything Taylor Swift sells right now. Yes,
and
everything
puts
sells.
Everything on watch.
Everything on watch. Like, my wife told me about, I can't remember the details, something about Taylor Swift, some Taylor Swift theme or whatever is coming up in some show. And obviously, because everything is Taylor Swift. Like, you put Taylor Swift in any capacity involved in anything, and people are going to watch. Like, she is a ratings bonanza. She is a streaming bonanza. And it's People Magazine. That's what they're doing. They're like, yeah, we'll put Jason Kelce up. Why not? I'll guarantee there's a blurb about T Swift. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
And that's how people know him. So.
But that was always reserved for like Pitt, Clooney, Dempsey, all of those guys. And
not centers.
I love that an NFL player is getting a center. That's awesome.
It's not Brady or something like that. It's Jason Kelce. I love it.
He's awesome.
So Kevin Harlan, Jerry's percentages coming up in hour 2. Overdrive continues. TSN 1050 and on TSN 4.